We are just learning in a matter of hours, several Americans will land on U.S. soil in San Antonio, Texas. This is part of an historic prisoner swap after spending time in a Venezuelan jail. Why the U.S. has agreed to release a man who prosecutors accuse of playing a role in a multi-million-dollar bribe scheme just to make this happen. Plus, what happens next after the Colorado Supreme Court's decision to disqualify former President Trump from appearing on its election ballot? Why some say this loss is actually a win. Then federal officials now investigating a helicopter crash that killed 2 people in New Jersey. What we now know tonight. Plus, in our backstory, what happens when you give free money to people trapped in poverty in Kenya? We're going to go behind the scenes with the reporter who has been following an experiment for years, doing just that. Plus, we talked to the Black Texas teen kept out of class because of his hair. That is in tonight's original. And hello, I'm Sam Brock in for Hallie here in Miami. We are coming on the air tonight with breaking news. Several Americans released as part of a major prisoner exchange with Venezuela will be back home on U.S. soil. This expected to happen landing at an airfield in San Antonio in just a matter of hours. That is according to senior administration officials. Now, the Biden administration announced an agreement to release a close ally of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro in exchange for jailed Americans and the release of political prisoners in Venezuela. The Maduro ally is Colombian businessman Alex Saab, who was arrested for money laundering back in 2020 and accused at the time of playing a role in a bribery scheme that involved $350 million being taken from the Venezuelan government. So in exchange, Maduro agreed to release 10 U.S. citizens, including 6 Americans who the State Department has designated their characterization as wrongfully detained, and 4 other unidentified Americans. Here's what President Biden said just a short while ago.
They're in an aircraft on their way home to the United States. And we've secured the release of every American being held in Venezuela on their way home. And we have no higher priority than the release of detained and or hostage Americans being held hostage.
All right, there's more here. Venezuela also agreeing to extradite Leonard Francis, better known as Fat Leonard, who was actually behind one of the biggest bribery scandals in U.S. Navy history. Gabe Gutierrez is joining us now to discuss. Gabe, thanks for being here. Walk us through really the politics and also the significance of this exchange and this agreement with Venezuelan President Maduro.
Well, hi there, Sam. Well, as you know, long history of complicated and tense relations between the U.S. and Venezuela. Now, this swap came about after months, at least, of tense negotiations between the 2 countries. And as you said, it was announced just today that 10 Americans, including 6 of them who were classified as wrongfully detained by the State Department, are coming home. Now, as you said, the Biden administration is saying that the president made a difficult decision to release Alex Saab, who had been accused of that corruption scandal. But in return, the Biden administration says it is a top priority, as you heard the president say, to get Americans back home. But already this is drawing criticism by opponents of the Maduro government and also critics of the Biden administration, including, for example, Florida Senator Marco Rubio. He's been very outspoken about Venezuela before, and tonight he is calling this deal shameless and saying that it will incentivize tyrants, in his words, like Maduro, to take Americans into custody. Sam?
So it's not without some controversy, Gabe. You know, I would also ask, one of the headlines here is about this fugitive, Leonard Francis, who was extradited in this exchange. What more can you tell us about those circumstances?
Yeah, that's right. And he is well known to the law enforcement community. He is Leonard Francis. He's known as Fat Leonard. And he was behind, as you said, one of the worst bribery scandals in U.S. Navy history. He actually fled to Venezuela last year, just weeks before his sentencing. He escaped house arrest by cutting off his ankle monitor. But, you know, Sam, we're just learning more about some of these Americans that are being brought here to the U.S. I spoke with the mother of one of them. His name is Joseph Cristella. He'd been accused of entering Venezuela illegally from Colombia. Is with his fiancée. His mother says that he went into Venezuela, showed his passport, was allowed in, but was then arrested a short time later at a bus stop. She calls the whole situation heartbreaking, at least the last few months, and she says that she was shocked when she got that call earlier today saying that her son would be released, and she is very grateful and trying to catch a flight to see him. She's already spoken with him. He is very grateful, he says, to be out of Venezuela, Sam.
Yeah, some joy, certainly, for those families. Gabe Gutierrez from the White House. Thank you so much, Gabe. Well, tonight, the questions only mounting over what comes next after the Colorado Supreme Court's extraordinary decision to disqualify former President Trump from appearing on the state's election ballots. That court saying the former president, quote, incited and encouraged the use of violence and lawless action to disrupt the peaceful transfer of power, arguing those actions were a violation of a section in the 14th Amendment. So here's what we do know. Trump will be appealing this up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Here's what we don't know: when the high court will actually take up the case, with crucial deadlines just a couple of weeks away. What it will mean for the other states where Trump's ballot access is being challenged, and the significance of this ruling politically for the former president. So to discuss all of those topics and the team covering it is quickly evolving, NBC's Vaughn Hilliard and legal analyst Angela Sanadella. Thank you both for being here. Vaughn, let's start with you first. So the former president, obviously no stranger to using legal challenges to help really build support among his base, especially as part of his broader argument for being targeted for political persecution. We've certainly heard that for years. Well, this Colorado court, Vaughn, is made up of 7 justices appointed by a Democratic governor. When you consider the optics of that, does the court's ruling stand to help the former president politically?
He's trying his best, Sam, to get it to help him to the extent that he can politically, sending out multiple fundraising emails today, suggesting it's Democrats in a politicized court that wants to, in his words, nullify the votes of Republican voters around the country. Now, January 15th is the Iowa caucus, and then 1 week later is the New Hampshire primary. And then March 5th is not only Colorado's primary, but it's what they call Super Tuesday. About 1/3 of the delegates that will go toward selecting the Republican nominee for president will be voting here. And for Donald Trump, he's trying to turn the legal battles into political ones. Just take a look at the polling. Ever since the first indictment out of New York back in March, you can see how his polling numbers and his lead over Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley has only expanded with each legal indictment, with each legal battle that he has encountered here. And just like we saw here last night, if in fact the U.S. Supreme Court were to not rule and affirm the decision out of Colorado and keep him on the ballot around the country, well, his Republican allies see this as an opportunity and an opening to continue to attack the justice system as one that attacks him.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Justice Department seems to be the target in all of this, not Trump. And it was fascinating what you just showed us, this crescendo of support for Trump during the legal entanglements. As far as the party is concerned, the Republican Party, Vaughn, though, it seems like there are some strange bedfellows perhaps here where both Trump critics and, you know, those who are supporting him seem to be coming out on the same side of this. Is there any daylight between what they're saying publicly and what they're saying privately?
No, and largely they're boxed in here at this point. We saw this after each of the indictments. We saw it a year ago when the FBI executed that search warrant in Mar-a-Lago looking for those classified documents at Donald Trump's residency. And what you have seen over the last 24 hours are his Republican primary rivals, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, come out in defense of him, saying that he should stay on the ballot. You see Nikki Haley saying, the last thing we want is judges telling us who can and can't be on the ballot. You see Ron DeSantis saying the SCOTUS should reverse. Vivek Ramaswamy is even saying that he would withdraw his name from the Colorado primary ballot in solidarity with Donald Trump here. Of course, this is a big decision that is in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, one that could very well upend the 2024 presidential election. I want to let you hear from President Biden himself when he was asked on the tarmac today about whether he thought Donald Trump was an insurrectionist. Take a listen.
Trump an insurrectionist, sir?
Well, I think certainly it's self-evident. You saw it all. Now, whether the 14th Amendment applies, I'll let the court make that decision. But he certainly supported an insurrection. And no question about it. None. Zero.
Of course, all of this timeline is going to be so crucial to this as to when the Supreme Court, if they decide to hear this case out of Colorado, when they decide to hear it, and how quickly they'd be able to issue a ruling, because Republican voters, they're going to begin voting in their state primaries just within a matter of weeks, Sam.
Yeah, you laid that out perfectly, the political ramifications here, Vaughn. Now, of course, the legal ones and what the Supreme Court might do with a tight timeline. Thank you so much, Vaughn. Let's go now to those legal ramifications. And Angela Senadella. Angela, thank you for joining us. You know, the Supreme Court here, so fundamental in what happens next. Do you personally have any sense of what this time frame might look like or how even the court might rule?
I think we can expect, Sam, that within the next couple of weeks, within the next 10 to 14 days, we are going to see from the Supreme Court at least an agreement to hear this case. And at that point, what happens is that the current disqualification of Trump from the ballot will continue to be paused until the Supreme Court issues some sort of ruling. Now, in terms of how the Supreme Court will rule, I certainly think that the Supreme Court will not uphold the Colorado Supreme Court's reversal. I think based on the lack of precedent, based on the lack of congressional clarity with this, the Supreme Court tends to revert back to their basic principles, protecting life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, trying to punt back to Congress for more clarity or punt back to the voter. So I think it would be very unexpected if the Supreme Court continued to allow for the disqualification of Donald Trump from the ballot.
Yeah, you have some states that have challenged this, Angela, that have dismissed it on procedural grounds. A judge in Michigan who said it was political. I do want to ask you, here's a map right now of all the states where there is some level of the legal process playing out in terms of requests to disqualify Trump from the ballot. What, in your opinion, Angela, really differentiates the Colorado State Supreme Court's decision versus the decision that other courts have made and none have come to this ruling until now?
So I have to say there is a level of safety in numbers. And what I mean by that is that no judge was really that interested in being the activist to disqualify Donald Trump. So at the trial level, you haven't seen judges act that way. Now, in an appellate court, in a Supreme Court where you do have 7 justices and you have a 4-3 majority, you don't have all that spotlight on one judge. Now, how this ruling will affect all the others, I think at this point in time, we have to wait for the Supreme Court, see if they'll agree to hear this case, because ultimately then any decision around the country would be entirely moot. That is, if the Supreme Court provides true clarity. It's also possible the Supreme Court could just, punt it back for more clarity.
Which would create absolutely fascinating chaos if they were to choose to do that. Angela Senadella, thank you so much for that insight. Well, we move now abroad tonight, and Hamas's top leader is in Egypt to talk about the ongoing war with Israel and terms for a possible ceasefire as pressure builds around the world and from within Israel to stop the violence. Key in all of this, getting hostages still held by that terror group safely out of Gaza. Now, the U.S. is feeling that pressure, too, with Secretary of State Antony Blinken pushing back earlier, saying that Israel has an obligation to remove Hamas.
I hear virtually no one demanding of Hamas that it stop hiding behind civilians, that it lay down its arms, that it surrender.
What the secretary just laid out there, we know, is also a stated goal for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He is promising Israel will fight, quote, until Hamas is eliminated and the hostages are released. Now, according to Israeli officials, there are still 129 hostages believed to be held captive. Ali Arouzi joining me now from Cairo. Ali, earlier today, we saw the UN Security Council again delay a vote on aid to Gaza, which is so needed right now. As these conversations are happening in Egypt, where you are, with Hamas leaders around the war, what do we know about the latest developments on the ground?
Hey, Sam. So over the last couple of days, we've seen some traction over a possible ceasefire being brokered and talks of more hostages being released, not least of all because both sides are under pressure. The Israelis desperately want to get hostages home, especially after that friendly fire incident when the IDF mistakenly killed 3 Israeli hostages, and Hamas wants a respite from the pounding that they're getting. That's why we've seen talks taking place in all sorts of places. CIA Director Bill Burns was just in Warsaw meeting with the Qatari PM and the head of Israel's Mossad spy agency. hostility. And today, as you mentioned, the head of Hamas's political bureau, Ismail Haniyeh, arrived here in Cairo for talks with the head of Egypt's intelligence agency and other Egyptian officials who are also key mediators in this process. But because this meeting was with intelligence officials rather than the foreign ministry, it was a bit cloak and dagger. They didn't give us a readout. They didn't say what was going on. So we don't really know what went on in that meeting. There is some optimism, however, but there are also some major sticking points between the two sides, and that's going to be difficult to overcome. Like, how many Palestinian prisoners will be swapped with Israeli hostages held in Gaza? These are things they all have to iron out. Also, interestingly, Sam, just before we came on air, a senior Hamas official speaking at a press conference in Beirut said there won't be any hostage release till there's an end to all the hostility.
And all the while, Hallie, obviously families clinging to that optimism that you just mentioned. From Cairo this evening, Hallie Arouzi, thank you so much. Back at home now, and tonight the National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, is headed to the scene of a news helicopter crash in New Jersey that claimed the life of the pilot and the photographer on board. Television station WPVI says their helicopter was headed back to Philadelphia from an assignment near the Jersey Shore when it crashed in a wooded area late last night. Kathy Park is following the story. She joins us now. Kathy, you know, news stations are constantly launching helicopters out on assignments. We both worked at local TV stations. This is everyday stuff here for weather, for traffic reports. What is the latest on this crash tonight, and what do we know about the investigation?
Hey, Sam, good evening. Yeah, this is certainly a heartbreaking story, and there's still so many questions as to what exactly went wrong. Right now, we don't know why this helicopter crashed, but we do know that the NTSB, as you mentioned, is en route to the scene, and they will be beginning their investigation. It will take roughly 30 days to get the preliminary report, but they will be backtracking. They will be looking at the maintenance records of the aircraft. What were the weather conditions at the time of the crash? They will also be talking to witnesses on the ground, and perhaps they saw something just moments before the crash. And also they'll be pulling images from surveillance cameras, doorbell cameras as well. So that's part of the larger, longer investigation, Sam. But we also have a better idea of how this all played out. We have a timeline of how this all played out. It was around 8 o'clock when the helicopter was heading back from their assignment in the Jersey Shore, heading to Philadelphia. And then just before 11 o'clock last night, that's when a call came in saying that the chopper was missing. And then shortly after midnight was when they discovered that debris field, Sam.
Absolutely heartbreaking, and also just families and colleagues who are grieving right now, Kathy. We know that a pilot and a photographer were killed, but what else do we know, if anything, at this point about the victims here?
Yeah, right now, the TV station, they are not releasing the names of those two individuals at this time out of respect for the families because they are still being notified. But, Sam, we are told that they were longtime members of the team. They were beloved members of the newsroom, and they were there for several years. They loved their craft. They loved their families. And speaking of families, the news family is mourning. They're grieving, and you could just hear the emotion in one of the reports. Take a listen.
I want to stress our condolences to them, to those people who love them the most, who work together with them every single day, the people who they just wanted to return home to last night. And those people are the people that we are especially thinking of today. Thank you for allowing us to have them as members of our team.
And Sam, you mentioned earlier, we both worked in local news. We know the value of having a chopper as part of the news gathering operation. They're able to gain access to things that we can't necessarily get to quickly for breaking news. You mentioned they offer traffic reports, beauty shots as well. So this was certainly a big loss for that newsroom in Philadelphia. Sam?
Yeah, things we take for granted, Kathy, and just dedicated journalists trying to do their jobs. Kathy Park with the very latest. Thank you so much. Well, just a few hours ago, U.S. regulators proposed big changes to online privacy rules for kids. The Federal Trade Commission wants to strengthen existing law that stops social media apps, video game platforms, and digital advertisers from tracking minors online and then making money off of them. FTC Chair Lina Khan writing in a statement today, quote, "Kids must be able to play and learn online without being endlessly tracked by companies looking to hoard and monetize their personal data." I want to bring in Jake Ward now to really break this down. And Jake, obviously, for years, there's been no shortage of criticism for the government that they really are behind the eight ball, really, on regulating the digital space. But now I guess they're taking action. So what exactly do these new rules do, and do they go far enough?
That's right, Sam. You're making a good point there about, the U.S. government, which has been, compared to a place like the EU or China, extremely hands-off when it comes to regulating tech in general and social media in particular. Now, there is an existing rule called COPPA, C-O-P-P-A, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, which is really, Sam, one of the only laws of the land when it comes to privacy online, and it applies to kids. It's supposed to provide basically a standard by which social media companies need to get a certain amount of parental permission before doing this and that. But it is not, according to the FTC, strong enough. And that's why they're proposing these new rules, which would really make a very, very big difference in how social media companies get to interact with kids. Requiring a separate opt-in for targeted ads and limits on nudging a kid. Hey, you should come back into here, strengthening all kinds of data security requirements and putting big limits on data retention so that what you do as a kid on a social media app can't be carried into your adult life on that app. It's a very broad set of changes that the FTC is proposing here, Sam.
And you're talking about really the business model that's being manipulated or that is going to be changed for these tech companies. So, I mean, knowing that, right, exactly, knowing that, what kind of challenges might we anticipate?
Well, if you look at the recent legal action, you know that a social media company depends not only on advertising and the rest to make money, but it depends on creating a pipeline of users from kids all the way up into adulthood. We know this from the Frances Haugen leaks, the Facebook whistleblower, and the internal documents that she revealed. But we also know that these companies, as a result, are not going to go quietly, right? Utah just tried to pass a new legislation that requires parental consent for any kid to use social media at all overnight. And those companies have banded together under a trade group to sue to stop that. That's also true in Arkansas. We're seeing that with other state laws like ones in Texas and Louisiana. So undoubtedly, those companies are not going to go without a fight. And I think it's going to reveal quite a bit about how much they rely on young children as part of a target market they're trying to grow into adult users here, Sam.
Revealing for sure, and many parents we know will be watching very closely. Jake Ward, thank you so much. Moving on to weather right now. 22 million people across the Golden State are under flood alerts. Not so golden right now as a major storm is rolling in, soaking California over the next few days. Evacuation warnings are already in place in the mountains. That rain means snow, though where it's sorely needed. Sierra Nevada only has a fraction of total precipitation compared to what's considered normal by this time. Plus, out east, storm impacts there are lingering in both New Jersey and Maine, with rescues and some evacuation orders still in play there. Let's go to meteorologist Bill Cairns for the very latest. And Bill, let's start out west. It's a multi-day event. So what areas are you watching most closely?
All the south-facing mountains that are just to the northeast or northwest of Los Angeles. So we're talking from Malibu up to Santa Barbara and all the mountains just north of there. That's where we have a really good shot of seeing flash flooding, mudslides, debris flows. So obviously that can be life-threatening and just devastating if it happens to go through any towns too or communities. So this storm, you can kind of see it spinning here. It's just lingering. It's just sitting there. It's just going to move very slowly over the next 2 to 3 days. And you can see this plume of rain. The light rain is in green, the heavy rain is in the yellow, and the red's like torrential rains. So it's kind of been in the same spot, and that's where we start to get concerned. Already some reports of about 4 inches of rain. Los Angeles, all the way over here, just some scattered showers. Not too bad around Thousand Oaks. Santa Barbara's okay, too. But once you get out here just south of San Luis Obispo, that's where you're in that flow of steady rainfall. That's where the heaviest rain has been, and that's where we do have a flood advisory in effect. Right now, we haven't heard of any mudslides, no debris flows. We don't even have any flood warnings. Right now, it's just flood watches. But this is kind of the beginning of this slow-moving event. You mentioned the 22 million people all the way from San Diego northwards there to San Luis Obispo. And as far as the rainfall totals, the coastal mountainous ranges, that's who's going to get the most. And we do have the possibility 5 to 10 inches for the foothills in the mountains, and it's not out of the question someone could get a foot of rain over the next 2 to 3 days. Almost anywhere in this country you get a foot of rain, you're going to have a significant flood event. So that's the fear throughout this region. So as we go throughout the rest of this evening and into tonight, we could see a little bit of this moving a little bit closer to Los Angeles. During the day tomorrow, definitely in Los Angeles. But L.A., maybe only 1 to 2 inches of rain for you. It's the mountains we're more worried about. It all ends come Friday evening, Sam. That's when all the wet weather will be heading into areas like Arizona. So we'll keep an eye on it tonight. Tomorrow, though, if it's going to be significant, that's when it will happen.
Sure. Double-edged sword there, Bill. Obviously, the rain is needed, but it
Yes.
can be dangerous. Thank you so much. Well, coming up next, new fallout tonight over that controversial immigration law in Texas. We're going to take you to the border where numbers there are surging historically so. Plus, a chemical leak at a Tennessee cheese factory. Yes, a cheese factory, sending dozens of workers to the hospital. New details tonight about the threat to the public. Well, tonight, new records are being set at the southern border. Customs and Border Protection says that the agency stopped more than 12,000 migrants in the last few days alone, nearly all of them crossing into the country illegally. The latest uptick in people coming as over 26,000 migrants are in custody, pushing immigration processing centers way, way past their capacity. The backdrop to all of this, of course, are the new challenges to a controversial immigration law in Texas that would let local and state police arrest and detain people they suspect are in the U.S. illegally. Guad Venegas on the ground for us tonight in Texas from Eagle Pass. Guad, thank you so much for joining us. We know you've been reporting some of the biggest numbers that you personally have ever seen there. What are folks that you're talking to saying about this potential new law? And I say potential because we'll see where it goes in the courts, letting police arrest people on the suspicion of illegal entry.
Well, Sam, that law was signed yesterday by Governor Greg Abbott, and almost immediately we saw the city of El Paso and the ACLU take legal action against this law that they say is unconstitutional. They argue that immigration laws should be enforced by the federal government, not by the state government. And also, one of the main arguments they make is that this law would cause both local police and state agents to racially profile people in specific neighborhoods and detain them to question them. That's one of the reasons why they say this law is unconstitutional. But a lot of the attention today is here on places at the border, like what you see behind me in Eagle Pass. We're right next to one of the international bridges where the field behind me has been used by Customs and Border Protection as a holding area for thousands of migrants that have been arriving this week. Everything here is at capacity, and that's why they have to use this field as they process these migrants as fast as possible. Earlier today, U.S. Congressman Tony Gonzalez arrived to speak to the media about the current situation at the processing centers. Here's Tony Gonzalez speaking.
Border Patrol, CBP, was able to decompress, process, get over 4,000 people out. Another historic number, but yet more people are still coming, and there's more people in the pipeline. And I suspect Christmas will be worse than today, and New Year's will be worse than today. We're going the absolute wrong direction.
Now, what we know, that we have known, Sam, is that tens of thousands of migrants have been in Mexico for months, many for years, having issues to get through Mexico because of visas that Mexico imposed on migrants in order for them to get through Mexico and make it to the U.S.-Mexico border. But now it seems that something has changed in Mexico with the way immigration is enforcing the laws. And some of the contacts we've spoken to in Mexico say that the enforcement just isn't the same right now. I asked the congressman about this, and he did say that it seems like Mexican officials are not doing their job the way they used to in the past. And that's one of the reasons why they expect more migrants to arrive here. Sam, I should also point out the humanitarian crisis. Just in the hours that we've been here today, we've seen 5 of these individuals in this crowd carried out on stretchers for what we believe were medical emergencies, taken to a medical tent here. The congressman also pointing out the fact that local hospitals are overwhelmed, helping welcome some of these migrants, Sam.
Yeah, an incredible explanation as to what's going on right now, Guad. And if you've been to the border, obviously, you just know how difficult it is to process what human beings are going through. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that report, Guad. Let's get you over right now to the 5 things that our team here thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, nearly 30 people are in the hospital after 2 chemical leaks at a Tennessee cheese factory. Another 50 workers right now are actually also being monitored. Officials say they stopped the leaks and that there's no danger to the public, but they do want people to avoid the area while they look into what happened. Number 2, France's top TV presenter is facing a preliminary rape charge, authorities say. Patrick Poivre d'Arvor has been accused of sexual assault by about 20 women over a couple of decades. Claims that, by the way, he's denied. He hosted the country's most popular news program for more than 20 years. Number 3, the FTC is banning Rite Aid from using facial recognition in its stores for 5 years. Now, why is this so notable? According to the complaint, the company secretly used it for nearly a decade and wrongfully accused customers of shoplifting. Rite Aid says it was only used in a few stores and ended in 2020. Number 4, more than 300,000 air fryers are being recalled over a burn risk. This covers the Power XL brand sold at Target, Walmart, and Kohl's. Safety experts say to immediately stop using it if you own one of those and to contact the company for a refund. At number 5, this is, shall we say, a talker. Dating app Tinder is rolling out a $500 a month subscription membership called Tinder Select. It'll let users see the app's most sought-after profiles and let them DM or message other profiles without matching first. But Tinder says less than 1% of the app's users actually get a spot. It is invite only because, of course it is. When we come back, an NBC exclusive, what Chinese President Xi warned President Biden about at their meeting last month that is stirring some pretty big concerns tonight. Plus, why officials in Montana think a goat triggered an avalanche. That story is coming up later in The Local. The Colorado Supreme Court's ruling that former President Trump is no longer eligible to serve as president due to a little-known section of the 14th Amendment has basically opened up Pandora's box of legal, political, and electoral fallout. We'll see much of how that plays out in the coming weeks and months. But to help you better understand the constitutional basis for this extraordinary ruling, we asked our Noah Pransky to explain just what is Section 3. Take a look.
No person shall hold any office who, having previously taken an oath to support the Constitution of the United States, engaged in insurrection or rebellion. Chances are the 14th Amendment isn't near the top of your most familiar constitutional amendment list. In fact, it's probably behind the 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th, 13th, 15th, 19th, that tax one, the drinking one, and the other drinking one too. But here's why the 14th could be one of the very most important of 2024. See, this insurrection disqualifying language was ratified following the Civil War as a way to keep Confederates and their sympathizers out of office. It does not explicitly require a criminal conviction, but it was really only used between 1868 and 1872. That was until 2022, when a court removed from office a New Mexico County commissioner, also the co-founder of Cowboys for Trump, and disqualified him from ever holding office again based on his participation in the January 6th riots. And then December 2023 happened.
A bombshell ruling from the Colorado Supreme Court.
Mr. Trump is disqualified from the primary ballot.
A majority of Colorado's Supreme Court wrote in its split decision, Trump is disqualified from holding the office of president under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Former President Trump responded on Truth Social, "What a shame for our country, a sad day for America." And his campaign spokesperson said they would appeal and promised the decision would be overturned. There's only one court that can do that.
This is surely going to the U.S. Supreme Court.
So all eyes now shift to the nation's highest court, which may have to consider whether this 155-year-old amendment, which doesn't actually mention the office of president, should prevent the Republican frontrunner for president from winning an election. Uncertainty that Coloradans are hoping is settled before they go to the polls on Super Tuesday, March 5th.
All right, we'll see if that happens or if it's wishful thinking. But Noah Pransky joining us now. Noah, you mentioned the history. Let's now talk about the new precedent that could be set by both the Colorado and U.S. Supreme Courts. What happens, this is the million-dollar question, if this ruling is not overturned and Trump is not put back on the Colorado ballot? Do we know?
Well, it's speculation at this point, but the precedent could be set for other states to try the same thing, other groups to sue Donald Trump in other states to remove him from the ballot and the electoral process there. There's also the precedent that could be set politically where Republicans may start going after, say, President Joe Biden, trying to remove him from ballots. Now, we should point out, he obviously hasn't committed any acts of insurrection that we know of, but again, you set precedent, you have to live with that precedent, which is why so many people are watching this closely. Sam?
Rare times where any permutation that you just described, I think, would be believable. Noah Pransky, thank you so much for that. Well, NBC covers hundreds of stories each day, and because it's tough to read, watch, or listen to all of them, our bureau teams have done that for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment that we call The Local. From our Midwest Bureau, Minnesota is finally unveiling its new flag. There it is. After months of heated debate, the old one was criticized by some for showing a Native American on horseback. So the new flag will make its official debut in May. Out of our Western Bureau, Montana Ski Patrol, they say that a mountain goat is the source of triggering an avalanche at a ski resort. Is that the offending goat? I don't know. Patrollers say that they found goat tracks where the avalanche started and believe that the goat somehow rode it all the way down without injury. And from our Northeast Bureau, this story is great. New York Giants Tommy DeVito is smoothing things over with a New Jersey pizzeria owner after setting off a bit of a firestorm. DeVito, you see, was supposed to sign autographs at the pizza shop for 10 grand, but looked like it wasn't going to happen after his agent tried to double the price amidst his newfound stardom. Showing up last night, though, yet he did for free, showing that Tommy Cutlets has got the goods. Well, turning now to some exclusive reporting from NBC News. We are learning today that Chinese President Xi Jinping warned President Biden that Beijing will reunify Taiwan with mainland China. This according to 3 current and former U.S. officials who said the topic came up during the leaders' meeting last month at a San Francisco summit, which was supposed to reduce tensions between the two countries. It is important because Taiwan's government favors independence, but China considers the island an integral parts of its territory, and the U.S. officially opposes any changes to the status quo. So clearly it is complicated. Xi gave no concrete timing, but did say that he prefers to take Taiwan peacefully, not by force. A foreboding statement there. Spokesperson for the National Security Council declined to comment. Now, all this comes just before a pivotal presidential election next month in Taiwan. And as our Janice Mackey-Freyer has learned, the people there are facing really an increasing influence campaign from the mainland.
With a crucial election around the corner in Taiwan, candidates are at political rallies and events trying to win over voters. At the same time, there's another kind of campaign that's vying for influence here, coming in a wave of propaganda and disinformation that experts say is sweeping across the Taiwan Strait from mainland China. It has watchdog groups here on high alert, tracking coercive messaging online and finding signs of everything from Chinese musicians and influencers to AI and internet bots.
They sort of prop up these more pro-China voices in Taiwan and claims that they're the true voices of Taiwanese public opinion. Maybe it's not aimed to change your behavior instantly, but it's about making you doubt more.
Like online ads appearing to show Taiwan's president Tsai Ing-wen selling cryptocurrencies, or the news that Taiwan is making biological weapons for the U.S. Officials say both are false. It's what experts describe as cognitive warfare, designed to sow division and weaken trust in Taiwan's leadership, mainly because Tsai's government favors independence, while China considers Taiwan an integral part of its territory that it one day plans to retake.
Taiwan and China haven't held direct talks in nearly 8 years. At the same time, Beijing has become adamant in its intentions, even if it means war.
China has also increased shows of military force, with ships, surveillance patrols, fighter jets, even missiles becoming almost routine. Cyber attacks have soared too, according to Taiwan officials. There's now a Ministry of Digital Affairs with a well-known activist hacker, Audrey Tang, in charge.
The reason why this information hurt is not because it will change the presidential election result, but because it will intensify existing social conflicts.
China denies any attempts at interference, but makes no secret of its preference for a government more aligned with Beijing. Taiwan independence means war, said a spokesman in Beijing recently, adding independence is a dead end. Monitoring groups also point to what they call imelun, or U.S. skepticism, widespread messaging that questions U.S. reliability as an ally. In a speech at National Taiwan University captured by local media, the top U.S. diplomat here saying the U.S. stands with Taiwan.
We believe it is for the Taiwan voters to decide their next leader, free from outside interference.
The skepticism, though, draws attention to U.S. involvement in Ukraine, Afghanistan, the Israel-Hamas conflict, and amplifies the idea that maybe the U.S. might not be there for Taiwan.
The message is that there will be no knight in shining armor to save you when things really go down. And that's why, in order to save yourself from that scenario, maybe you should befriend China right now, so you will never get yourself into that situation in the future.
Polls show a majority of voters don't favor closer ties to China or to the U.S. Instead, they want to preserve the status quo, with Taiwan's people deciding what's best for Taiwan. Janice Mackey-Frere, NBC News.
All right, Janice, thank you so much. Coming up next, we are going to go behind the scenes with one reporter following one of the biggest experiments in fighting global poverty. That's next in tonight's Backstory. All right, well, it's time now to get to the backstory, our behind-the-scenes look at how a story comes together, how it fits into our bigger picture. The results now in for an unprecedented experiment that's been happening in Kenya to combat global poverty. Over the past 6 years, a U.S.-based charity has been giving thousands of villagers in Kenya universal basic income. That income amounted to a grant of about $50 in cash every month, with the commitment to keep the payments coming for 12 years. Researchers then compared the effects of that approach to 3 other groups: those who got no money, those who got money for just 2 years, and interestingly, those who got 2 years' worth of income in a lump sum payment. NPR has been covering this experiment on the ground since it started, and some of the findings that they lay out: major advantages in giving people a lump sum rather than giving it out in monthly installments. Even people who did not receive the lump sums ended up actually banding together to create their own version of it because that method was so helpful. There's one big question now: whether these benefits will actually last. Narit Eisenman is a correspondent for NPR and definitely covered this experiment literally for years. Narit, thank you so much for joining us to talk about your insight and what this whole thing was like. Talk to me, Narit, about what you experienced when you first arrived in this village and how you saw the experiment evolve over the years.
Yeah, so almost 7 years ago, I traveled to Kenya for the kickoff of this experiment, and I went to one of the villages, and you could really tell just how much people in that area were struggling. In the year before the experiment started, 85% had reported experiencing hunger at some point during that previous year. And when I was there and they got one of the first payments, they get it on their mobile phones. And I was at a community meeting, and then suddenly you hear tinkling everywhere. Everyone's phones are buzzing with the alert that the payments just posted, and people just broke into cheers. Women started singing songs. I mean, you could tell what a difference it was going to make for people.
And it's amazing because mobile phones, for many of us, we've had them in our back pockets for a decade and a half, and you just sort of take it for granted to see that level of joy and euphoria, to experience it for the first time. So talk to me more about sort of how this fits into the bigger picture in terms of the course of your career into global health and development. Obviously, you followed this idea of universal basic income for years now across multiple different countries. What is the takeaway here? I've certainly seen this applied on some level in U.S. cities as well. What are you experiencing there?
Yeah, I mean, it's an idea that's been gaining a lot of interest and been tried in different ways, but truly This is the biggest experiment, I mean, of its kind. I mean, to do this for 12 years, and it's truly universal in the villages where it's being applied. Literally every adult, it's not even every family, every adult is getting this income for 12 years running, and they're going to be following it. And the researchers involved are also, some of the people who are at the head of the pack in terms of poverty work. It includes Abhijit Banerjee, who was a Nobel Prize winner for his work on analyzing what works in poverty. And Tavneet Suri is one of the researchers that I've interviewed, and she's done really groundbreaking work on the use of mobile banking for the poor in Kenya in particular. So these are researchers that have been following it for the long haul. And it's just a really interesting study that a lot of people have been very interested to see the results of.
Speaking of the long haul, I mean, you've been covering this story for years, obviously, but also working on other stories at the exact same time. How do you balance that?
I mean, you just keep in touch. It's one of those things where this point was actually these results were, even though they've been giving the money now for, as you said, about 6 years running, these analyzed the first 2 years. So I'm just in constant touch, as journalists tend to be, when we're covering a long running ongoing story. And when I can tell, results are going to be coming in soon, I'm in touch with the researchers and with the charity that's giving out the money. It's called Give Directly, and they'll tell me okay, the analysis is almost complete, and so I'll be checking in. And then I do plan to also return to Kenya and check in with some of the individuals that I covered, because part of the story that we just covered now with these 2-year results are just kind of the nuts and bolts and facts and figures. But I think the human experience of it is also just as important to understanding it. And I want to check back in with those people that I met, almost 7 years ago now.
Nuri, can I ask you a quick question about the human experience? We talked about the fact the most successful version of this was people using either the lump sum up front or banding their money together. What does that tell you about the efficacy of a program like this?
Yeah, so basically what happened was everyone benefited, more or less equally when it came to consuming, food and things like that. But the real difference was, did they use their money to start businesses, and did they start to get more revenue from those businesses? And that was where the lump sum really made a difference. And then the people who were getting it with the promise of 12 years, they created these, they're called rotating savings clubs, where they take turns. Basically, everyone puts their money into a pot, and then they take turns each month getting the full pot. So they basically found a way to create a lump sum for themselves. And I witnessed that. And so that was very interesting that they were able to create effectively a lump sum.
Yeah, the human ingenuity there is really remarkable, as is the number of years and details that you've spent studying this particular experiment. Thank you so much, Nurit, for your time. We really do appreciate it. Well, still to come, one black teen in Texas has been kept out of classes for months, all because of his hair. Our team spoke with him and his family next in tonight's Original. Now we want to bring you today's Original with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been keeping a close eye on. Tonight, one black Texas teen just wants to get back to high school, but his school suspended and then resuspended him, keeping him out of his normal classes for months. And it's all because of his hairstyle. The school says it violates the district's dress code. Now the family is taking the issue to the courts. NBC's Zincle Esemwa spoke to the teenager and has the story.
For Daryl George, just outside Houston, Texas, hair has defined his junior year of high school.
How has this all felt for you?
It's very stressful. I'm trying to maintain being a student while also having to deal with this.
The 18-year-old has now been suspended twice over his hairstyle at Barbers Hill High School, most recently in early December. The first time was back in August, when school officials said George's braided locks fell below his eyebrows and earlobes, which violated the school district's dress code for boys.
Why should I cut my hair for my education? My hair has nothing to do with my education.
George was put in a disciplinary off-campus education program, and when he returned to school with his style intact, he was suspended again. The family filing a federal civil rights lawsuit against Texas Governor Greg Abbott and the state's attorney general in September, alleging that George's suspension violates the Crown Act. a Texas state law that took effect September 1st, prohibiting race-based discrimination, banning employers and schools from penalizing people because of their hair texture or protective styles, such as afros, twists, or dreadlocks. At least 24 states have their own version of the law, according to the think tank the Economic Policy Institute. Much of that legislation following high-profile incidents of alleged hair discrimination against African Americans.
We're alleging that the grooming code of Barbers Hill ISD is unconstitutional. The law says whether or not you intend to target a specific protected class, if the end result is that only the protected class is affected, is discriminatory.
Georgia's attorney says the district is engaging in a discriminatory pattern since back in 2020, 2 other students, both black teens, were also suspended for their hairstyles. In response, the Barbers Hill School District tells NBC News in part the claim is false, saying it has many African American students who wear dreadlocks and other similar protected hairstyles and comply with the district's length policy. We have one who does not. The superintendent adding that there are some African American students with religious exemptions for hair length, but, quote, we do not have an exception for I don't want to follow the rules. The superintendent also calling the lawsuit baseless and filing a lawsuit to clarify that the Crown Act does not address length or any other student expression, but instead protects the right to wear braids. Texas governors and attorney general's offices did not respond to our request for comment. As for Daryl George, his attorney says this legal battle has taken its toll. She requested a temporary injunction so George can return to school.
I feel like I ain't going nowhere with it. As of right now, no.
His family representative telling us many have encouraged the teenager to cut his hair and let the case go.
Daryl has hair that's woven in his head from his grandfather and from other ancestors. And this is how he is connected to his people.
What does your hair and your hairstyle mean to you?
It just means a lot to me. It made me feel more closer to my people. Being without my hair is like cutting me from my people, not letting me, express myself how I feel I should be.
All right, Zinkley joining us now. Zinkley, we hear this whole conversation around length versus braids. What exactly is the Crown Act, and where do we stand right now in any broader legislation on the federal level?
Yeah, Sam, good to see you. So the Crown Act is an acronym that stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. Of course, crown is also a term often used to refer to hair itself. And this legislation is particularly significant for the black community as there are a variety of natural hairstyles many African Americans use interchangeably. Even on this show, I've showed up to work with short curly hair and long braids. Now, as I mentioned, and as you asked, 24 states have their own version of the Crown Act, but there was a federal version of the act introduced in Congress in 2021 that passed in the House but was blocked by Senate Republicans. So right now there is no federal Crown Act to date. But Sam, an interesting note to end on here. Daryl George's team tells me that the teenager's initial suspension actually came just before the Crown Act passed in Texas. So this is a story we're definitely going to keep following. Sam.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll see what happens on the national level, too. Zinkley, thank you so much. That is a wrap for this hour. Coverage picks up right now. And we are just learning that in a matter of hours, several Americans will land on U.S. soil in San Antonio, Texas, as part of an historic prisoner swap. This after spending time in a Venezuelan jail. Why the U.S. has agreed to release a man who prosecutors accuse of playing a role in a multi-million-dollar bribe scheme just to make this happen. Plus, what happens next after the Colorado Supreme Court's decision to disqualify former President Trump from appearing on its election ballot? Why some say that this loss is actually a win. And we're just learning the identities of 2 people who were tragically killed in a helicopter crash in New Jersey. The new details we are just learning now and within the last hour or so. Plus, record numbers coming from the border tonight. What local leaders are saying about an uptick in migrants illegally coming into the U.S., how it's affecting them. We're going to take you live to the border. And how one Florida teacher's football-themed lessons are going viral and even grabbing the attention of some of the biggest names in the NFL. Hi, I'm Sam Brock, in for Hallie this evening. We are coming on air tonight with breaking news. Several Americans released. This is part of a major prisoner exchange with Venezuela. They are going to be back home on U.S. soil, expected to land at an airfield in San Antonio in just a few hours. That information, according to a senior administration official. The Biden administration announced an agreement to release a close ally of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro in exchange for jailed Americans and the release of political prisoners in Venezuela. The Maduro ally is Colombian businessman Alex Saab, who was arrested for money laundering back in 2020 and accused of playing a role in a bribery scheme that involved some $350 million taken from the Venezuelan government. President Biden, when he arrived back at the White House tonight, said the swap was worth it because Venezuela is freeing Americans who were held illegally. In the exchange, Maduro agreed to release 10 U.S. citizens, including 6 Americans who the State Department has characterized as being wrongfully detained, and 4 other unidentified Americans. Venezuela also agreeing to extradite Leonard Francis, better known as Fat Leonard, who was behind one of the biggest bribery scandals in U.S. naval history. Gabe Gutierrez joining us now from the White House to break it all down. Gabe, let's talk about the politics and the significance of this exchange and the agreement with Venezuelan President Maduro.
Well, Sam, it is extremely significant because, as you know, a very complicated and tense relationship between these two countries for so long. But as you heard the president just say, both earlier today and just a few minutes ago when he arrived back here at the White House, he says that this is worth it because Americans are coming home. But already, Sam, there are critics who are looking at this deal, including people like Florida Senator Marco Rubio, who's been very outspoken about Venezuelan issues before. He and others are looking at this and calling it shameless. They call Maduro a narco dictator, and they worry that cutting a deal with him might incentivize other enemies of the U.S. to detain more Americans. But let's get to the details of this deal. As you said, 10 Americans heading home, expected to land in San Antonio later tonight. 6 of them classified by the State Department as wrongfully detained. Now, in addition to that, Venezuela is also set to release 20 political prisoners and that fugitive that you mentioned, known as Fat Leonard Francis. He was behind one of the worst bribery scandals in U.S. Navy history. He actually had fled to Venezuela last year, just weeks before his sentencing, after cutting off his ankle monitor. So the U.S. says that it is getting just in return, the U.S. releasing this Colombian businessman, Alex Saab. He's known as an ally of Maduro. Sam?
Do we know, Gabe, you mentioned 10 Americans coming home. It seems like the government has been fairly tight-lipped in terms of their backgrounds, what they might have been doing in Venezuela in the first place. I know you had one personal anecdote. What do we know about their backgrounds?
That's right. Well, there are some names being released at this point, although not all of them. Some of their families are still being notified. I can tell you that Joseph Criste, I actually spoke with his mother. We also know of Evan Hernandez, Jarrell Kennemore, and Savoy Wright. Their families releasing statements, some of them, that they're very grateful to have their loved ones coming home. But Joseph Cristea's mother, I spoke with her a short time ago. Cristea was actually in Venezuela after crossing over from Colombia. He was there with his fiancée, visiting friends, he says, and when he was arrested. So the State Department says he was wrongfully detained. His mother is thrilled to have him home, and she thinks he was used as a bargaining chip, Sam.
Wow. Gabe Gutierrez with the very latest there from Washington. Thank you so much, Gabe. Well, tonight, the questions only mounting over what comes next after the Colorado Supreme Court's extraordinary decision to disqualify former President Trump from appearing on the state's election ballots. That court saying that the former president, quote, incited and encouraged the use of violence and lawless action to disrupt the peaceful transfer of power, arguing those actions were a violation of a section in the 14th Amendment. Here's what we do know tonight. Trump will appeal this up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Here's what we do not know. When the high court will take up the case, with crucial deadlines just a couple of weeks away. What it will mean for the other states where Trump's ballot access is at least being challenged, and the significance of this ruling politically for the former president. Let's bring in our team right now covering this quickly evolving story. NBC's Vaughn Hilliard, legal analyst Danny Savalos. Vaughn, let's start with you first here. The line on this from Team Trump is a familiar one. Remind me if you've heard it. It's a political persecution, a political witch hunt. Giving them this kind of ammunition, the fact that the Colorado State Supreme Court is made up of all Democrat-appointed justices, put that into perspective for us. How much of a political gift is this for the former president.
Right, Sam. This is, Donald Trump tries to use each of his legal battles for his political gain. And even just this afternoon, he was sending out fundraising emails from his campaign suggesting that this is a politicized court that is trying to nullify the will and nullify the votes of Republican voters who are set to go to the polls in primary states beginning on January 15th in Iowa, 1 week later in New Hampshire. And then in Colorado, of course, they vote on March 5th, which is what is called Super Tuesday. About 1/3 of the delegates that are going to be chosen to ultimately decide the Republican nominee for president are going to be voting on March 5th. And so the stakes of this are high. If the Supreme Court were to affirm the decision of the Colorado Supreme Court, it would disqualify Donald Trump from not only the ballot in Colorado, but across the country here. And while the stakes of this are high and it is difficult to fathom, frankly, the former president of the United States being removed from the ballot here, literally in the heart of this presidential election, for him, he is trying to tell his voters, look, this is an effort to undermine me. And when you see his polling, ever since he was first indicted on criminal charges back in March, his polling numbers have only gone up with each indictment that have come his way.
Yeah, the numbers are certainly striking there, too, the amount of a boost that he receives after getting into any of these legal entanglements. I would ask, Vaughn, this is Colorado to start. Other states are pursuing similar motions right now, though. You would think, Vaughn, that Mr. Trump's opponents might be celebrating this or thinking this would be an advantage. That's not what we've heard pretty much across the spectrum from the Republican Party. What are we hearing right now?
Right. The political difficulty for Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy is the fact that they've largely had to rally around Donald Trump when he has faced this legal scrutiny. Just look at some of the responses here from the last 24 hours. Ron DeSantis suggesting that the Supreme Court should reverse Colorado's decision. Nikki Haley saying, quote, the last thing we want is judges telling us who can and can't be on the ballot. This is perilous times, but so much of the Republican electorate today tells me that they want a leader who is going to take on what they believe is a politicized court system and a politicized Department of Justice here. I want to let you listen, though, to President Biden, who, if Donald Trump were to win this nomination, he'd be squaring off with in November. Take a listen today.
Trump an insurrectionist, sir?
Well, I think it's certainly self-evident. You saw it all. Now, whether the 14th Amendment applies, I'll let the court make that decision. But he certainly supported an insurrection. And no question about it. None. Zero.
We expect now here the Supreme Court to take this up here in a matter of weeks. Again, it comes back to this primary schedule here, Sam. January 15th is the first day that Republican voters in the state of Iowa are going to begin to voting. And then every week after that, more will be going to the polls. And to Donald Trump's concern, potentially the nullification of these votes and throwing this Republican primary race into chaos if the Supreme Court were to affirm the Colorado Supreme Court's decision.
Yeah, right around the corner. Hard to imagine, Vaughn, a more controversial set of circumstances. And the Supreme Court, as you suggest, is the backstop. Thank you, Vaughn, for that reporting. Let's go from there, then, to Danny Savalos, specifically on the legal potential here. What might happen? Danny, the Supreme Court's so fundamental in what happens next in this stage. Do you have any sense at all of a time frame when they might act, if they will, and how the court might rule?
Legal analysts like me are constantly getting asked in all Trump litigation, how soon, what's the timeline? And the answer is, we don't know, because I couldn't even begin to compare it to my regular run-of-the-mill cases involving parties that nobody's ever heard of, because the courts will not treat them that way. These are momentous, constitutionally significant cases, every one of them, and cases of first impression, and most cases don't run up against a upcoming election. And in fact, all these deadlines, for example, January 4th, which is the brief stay that the Colorado Supreme Court has issued in order that the Trump team can appeal, because January 4th is the day before Colorado has to decide who is on the ballots. They got to print these things. So it's not just next November. There are a number of crucial deadlines coming up almost on a rolling basis. So timeline is as soon as the Supreme Court can hear it, as soon as they appeal to the Supreme Court, if they want to hear it.
Right. So The statutory deadline is actually Jan 4, so it's right around the corner. And obviously, I'm sorry, Danny, to be the 9 millionth person to ask you to predict the future, because you are not in the business of predicting the future, nor is any other expert on this topic. But I will say this, you're looking at this situation where you have multiple states, 3, I believe, that have already ruled in Trump's favor on this, rejecting the argument that he should be disqualified from their ballots, as we take a look right now at a map of all the states where there's some sort of motion at play right now. What makes Colorado different? What differentiates that state Supreme Court, Danny, when they're all looking at the same constitutional language?
I am more than happy to predict the future. I'm usually wrong, and I hope you don't save the tape. But I will, because I'm just playing the odds. And you bring up a very good point. This is an earth-shattering decision by the Colorado Supreme Court, but you correctly point out that other courts have already gone the other way for Donald Trump.
Right.
Just as this is a blueprint, arguably, for other jurisdictions to analyze, and it was a very thorough analysis, constitutionally speaking, of the issues, the other courts have gone the other way on different issues, something as basic as Article 3 standing, for example. And the point to be made is that there are so many different issues involved here. And even the Colorado Supreme Court, this was not a unanimous decision. I expect that when it goes to the Supreme Court, that will not be a unanimous decision either. And if I were to bet, I'm just playing the odds, there are so many different issues, appealable issues within this opinion, that any one of them, it's a giant Jenga opinion in that any one of them, once pulled out, could result in the entire decision being overturned. So if you're just playing the odds, not rooting for one side or the other, the odds are there's a good chance this gets overturned at the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I am notoriously bad at Jenga. Hopefully the Supreme Court justices are better and they figure this out. Danny Savalas, thank you so much for that insight. Really appreciate it. We go abroad now, and tonight Hamas says that there will not be any more negotiations on the release of hostages until the war against Israel in Gaza, or I should say Israel's war in Gaza, ends. That's happening as the terror group's top political leader is in Egypt tonight to talk about where this conflict goes from here. Pressure, of course, has been building around the world and from within Israel to stop the violence. Key in all of this, getting hostages still held by the terror group safely out of Gaza. The U.S. feeling that pressure, too, with Secretary of State Antony Blinken pushing back earlier, saying that Israel has an obligation to remove Hamas if the terror group won't back down.
I hear virtually no one saying, demanding of Hamas that it stop hiding behind civilians, that it lay down its arms, that it surrender.
According to Israeli officials, there are still 129 hostages believed to be held captive by Hamas. Ali Arouzi joining me now from Cairo, Egypt, of course, where Hamas leader is at this moment. Ali, you have Israel's prime minister on one hand saying that they will not stop fighting until, in his words, Hamas is eliminated and hostages are released. But then Hamas is saying that it won't happen unless Israel stops the war first. In the backdrop of all of this, the devastating situation that is unfolding in Gaza, a humanitarian crisis, Hamas's government media office in that region is reporting that now, as of just recently here, an estimated 20,000 people have been killed there since October the 7th. Obviously, a lot to absorb. What does that mean for these negotiations?
It's very complicated, Sam. I mean, there are always contradicting statements, especially coming from Hamas, that they're willing for a ceasefire, then there has to be a complete cessation in fighting for these hostages to be released. So you never know what track Hamas is going down. But Ismail Haniyeh, the head of Hamas's political bureau, is here in Cairo. He flew in from Qatar, who's another important interlocutor. Haniyeh is meeting with the head of Egypt's intelligence and other officials. Those meetings are all behind closed doors. They're not giving us any readout of what has gone on in those meetings, and they never do at an intelligence level. So we don't know what they've been able to hammer out there. But, you know, there has been some hope that they may be able to broker some kind of ceasefire to get these hostages home from Gaza back to Israel. But there's still a lot of negotiating to do, and there are a lot of players involved in this to try and get it done.
Do you get any sense, Ali, as to how committed both sides are to actually preserving any sort of ceasefire? I know the IDF said that after, I believe it was day 7, Hamas broke it. After all of these hostages, more than 100 were actually released. What's the level of commitment? What sense are you getting on the ground?
Well, again, it's very difficult to gauge that. Look, the Israelis are saying that they are not going to stop until Hamas is wiped out. Hamas is saying that they're not going to let any hostages go until there's a complete end to the fighting. But at the same time, they're both under pressure to at least get a temporary ceasefire into place. I mean, we saw the IDF mistakenly kill 3 Israeli hostages. Hamas is getting pounded. They both need a respite in the fighting. Hopefully that'll happen, and then we'll see what the next stage will be again.
No question. All these families certainly hoping that this does actually happen. Ali Arouzi from Cairo, thank you so much. The Philadelphia news station has just identified the pilot and the photographer who were killed when their news chopper crashed in a wooded area of New Jersey late last night. The pilot was 67-year-old Monroe Smith of Glenside, Pennsylvania, and the photographer, 45-year-old Christopher Doherty of Orland, Pennsylvania. They were the only 2 people on board that chopper. The National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, is headed to the scene of the crash to begin their investigation. Kathy Park is following this very closely. She joins me now. Obviously, Kathy, we just learned the names of the 2 victims, which means their families, of course, have been notified. What else do we know about them, and how are people reacting to this absolutely disheartening news?
Yeah, Sam, this is certainly a heartbreaking story, and within the past hour we got the names of those 2 victims. The pilot has been identified as 67-year-old Monroe Smith, and the photographer was 45-year-old Christopher Doherty. And right now the station isn't releasing much about them, but we do know that they were longtime members of the team. They loved their craft, they were good at what they did, and as you can imagine, Sam, the newsroom is devastated, and the tragedy is hitting their colleagues pretty hard. Take a listen.
I want to stress our condolences to them, to those people who love them the most, who work together with them every single day, the people who they just wanted to return home to last night. And those people are the people that we are especially thinking of today. Thank you for allowing us to have them as members of our team.
And Sam, you could just hear the emotion in her voice. We're told that these men were just invaluable resources for the news gathering operation. They got everything from the breaking news to the beauty shots to the traffic jams. They were an extra set of eyes in the air.
And as you mentioned earlier when we spoke, Kathy, the fact that, you know, we've both worked at local news stations. It's a family, basically. And these are the kinds of things that happen every single day. Launching the chopper to go see an accident, or, you know, a traffic report, or a developing news story. What is the latest on this crash tonight, on this seemingly sort of perfunctory service of a news station, and what might have led to what happened and where we stand with the investigation?
Yeah, so Sam, that's a great question, and we still don't have a lot of answers. We know that the NTSB, they are en route to the debris field right now, and that is where they will begin, and they will start combing through that debris field. They will be looking at the aircraft history, looking at the maintenance records, the flight logs, what was the weather like at the time of the crash. They'll also be asking witnesses on the ground what they may have seen at the time of the crash, and then they'll also be pulling images from surveillance cameras and doorbell cameras as well as they begin this long investigation. And we're told that the preliminary report will likely take about 30 days. Sam?
All right, Kathy Park, thank you so much for that report. Well, just a few hours ago, U.S. regulators proposed big changes to online privacy rules for kids. The Federal Trade Commission wants to strengthen existing laws that stop social media apps, video game platforms, and digital advertisers from tracking minors online and then making money off of them. FTC Chair Lina Khan writing in a statement today, quote, "Kids must be able to play and learn online without being endlessly tracked by companies looking to hoard and monetize their personal data." I want to bring in now Jake Ward. Jake, obviously for years there's been no shortage of criticism for the government that they really are behind the 8 ball really on regulating the digital space. But now I guess they're taking action. So what exactly do these new rules do, and do they go far enough?
That's right, Sam. You're making a good point there about, the U.S. government, which has been, compared to a place like the EU or China, extremely hands-off when it comes to regulating tech in general and social media in particular. Now, there is an existing rule called COPPA, C-O-P-P-A, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, which is really, Sam, one of the only laws of the land when it comes to privacy online. And it applies to kids. It's supposed to provide basically a standard by which social media companies need to get a certain amount of parental permission before doing this and that. But it is not, according to the FTC, strong enough. And that's why they're proposing these new rules, which would really make a very, very big difference in how social media companies get to interact with kids. Requiring a separate opt-in for targeted ads and limits on nudging a kid. Hey, you should come back into here, strengthening all kinds of data security requirements and putting big limits on data retention so that what you do as a kid on a social media app can't be carried into your adult life on that app. It's a very broad set of changes that the FTC is proposing here, Sam.
And you're talking about really the business model that's being manipulated or that is going to be changed for these tech companies. So, I mean, knowing that, right, exactly, knowing that, what kind of challenges might we anticipate?
Well, if you look at the recent legal action, you know that a social media company depends not only on advertising and the rest to make money, but it depends on creating a pipeline of users from kids all the way up into adulthood. We know this from the Frances Haugen leaks, the Facebook whistleblower, and the internal documents that she revealed. But we also know that these companies, as a result, are not going to go quietly, right? Utah just tried to pass a new legislation that requires parental consent for any kid to use social media at all overnight. And those companies have banded together under a trade group to sue to stop that. That's also true in Arkansas. We're seeing that with other state laws like ones in Texas and Louisiana. So undoubtedly, those companies are not going to go without a fight. And I think it's going to reveal quite a bit about how much they rely on young children as part of a target market they're trying to grow into adult users here, Sam.
Revealing for sure, and many parents we know will be watching very closely. Jake Ward, thank you so much. Well, it's a big number. 22 million people across the Golden State are under flood alerts right now as a major storm rolls in, soaking California over the next few days. So we're not just talking the next 24 hours. Evacuation warnings are already in place. In the mountains, that rain means snow where it's sorely needed. Sierra Nevada only has a fraction of total precipitation compared to what is considered normal by this time of year. You see the graphic right there. Plus, out east, storm impacts still lingering in both New Jersey and Maine, with rescues and some evacuation orders also still in play. Let's get to meteorologist Bill Cairns for more. Obviously, Bill, we're talking about a state, California, that is deeply in drought. This is kind of a double-edged sword because the rain's needed, but this could also be quite dangerous. What are you watching?
Well, we need these storms. So this is the rainy season. Yeah. We have to have these storms to fill up the reservoirs, and we need that snowpack, which then melts to fill the reservoirs towards the end of the spring and in the beginning of the summer. The issue with this storm is it's a very warm storm. We've only gotten some snow. If you're familiar with Mammoth, the big ski resort there, Mammoth Lakes area, they've only reported 8 inches with this storm system so far, and they don't have a lot of snow. They only have a third of their trails open. Last year at this time, remember the pictures? The houses had like snow over the top of the roofs. It was crazy. So this is not a cold weather storm, just like the East Coast storm. This is a very warm storm. A lot of signs of El Nino still all the way across the country with all the warmth. And we're worried about the rainfall in the mountains. The south-facing mountains, they run this way. They run east and west. This rain is coming up from the south, so that acts kind of as the air flows up the mountain. It wrings it out at the top. That's the problem. That's where we're going to have the maybe 5, 10. Someone could get a foot of rain out of this. I've already seen one report of a place that has 4 to 5 inches of rain. There's no flood warnings out here. It's been kind of dry over the last couple of weeks, so we can handle intermittent rain. It's when we get the really heavy soaking stuff late tonight and through tomorrow. That's when we're going to start to get the mud and the debris flows. And if we get any significant river flooding, that's when it will occur. So there's the 22 million people going all the way down to San Diego, Oceanside, L.A., Santa Barbara, Malibu, back to San Luis Obispo. These are the areas, but it's mostly the mountains that are going to have the biggest issues. The rainfall forecast, the rain details, 2 to 5 inches possible valley and coast. That's the max. And in the mountains, 5 to 10 inches, with someone could get a foot, and the best chance of that's going to be from the Malibu area over to Santa Barbara. And Sam, it kind of looks like this during the overnight tonight. We watch it trying to approach L.A. It kind of stalls out near Santa Barbara and Malibu. That's where we're worried about them and the flood threat. L.A., the best chance for you is going to be Thursday evening for the heaviest rain. We'll watch it closely.
All right, keeping a close eye on all of California, especially those larger metros. Appreciate that, Bill. Thank you so much. Still ahead, the stunning possible merger, and we say possible, that could bring more shakeups to the entertainment industry, and why doctors in England are walking off the job and the big trouble that could create for emergency rooms across the UK. More on that when we come back. Tonight, new records are being broken at the southern border. Customs and Border Protection says that the agency stopped more than 12,000 migrants in the last few days, nearly all of them crossing into the country illegally. The latest uptick in people coming as more than 26,000 migrants are currently in custody, pushing immigration processing centers way past their capacities. The backdrop, of course, to all of this is the controversial new immigration law, the challenges to it as well in Texas, that would let local and state law enforcement detain people that they suspect are in the U.S. illegally. Guad Venegas on the border in Texas for us tonight in Eagle Pass. Just looking behind you, Guad, and seeing the image of hundreds upon hundreds of people is so striking. You've said in your reporting already this is one of the biggest figures that you've seen. What are you learning from folks on the ground now about what's bringing them to the United States at this point in time and what they think about this new law that would allow local police to arrest anyone on suspicion of illegal entry?
Sam, this is the biggest group I've ever seen here in Eagle Pass. And, you know, it changes by the hour. In the last hour, we saw large groups arrive coming from the Mexican side, cross the river. They're lined up by U.S. authorities, and they're brought over to this field, which is essentially the makeshift holding area where they have to wait, some of them for a day, before they can get processed by authorities. So we haven't been able to speak to the migrants on this occasion. So in other trips that we've had reporting in this area of the border, we were allowed to approach the migrants to be over there, but they have changed the rules for the media now. We have to maintain distance. We've heard some of the migrants yell out that they were hungry. We've also heard from our colleagues on the Mexican side that work with Telemundo Network. I've heard that a lot of these migrants, again, are from Venezuela. They are riding the trains, but their understanding of the laws and what laws are changing in Texas and in the U.S. are almost non-existent. So we don't know if a lot of the migrants are coming because there's news that something might change, or if it's just because the timing happened to be the same when they were arriving at the U.S.-Mexico border. What we do know, Sam, is that in late October, we reported thousands leaving from southern Mexico, a caravan that at one point was reported could have been 7,000 to even 9,000 migrants traveling in a large group, making their way through Mexico. We also have reports that Mexican immigration has eased off on the patrols that they have within the country, which has allowed a lot more migrants to arrive at the U.S.-Mexico border and in places like in Eagle Pass. And of course, we know that we have a crisis, and also there's the humanitarian aspect with a lot of the migrants here getting sick and today being carried out on stretchers. Earlier today, U.S. Congressman Tony Gonzalez arriving to talk about the impact, to talk about the numbers that they're seeing in some of their processing centers. Here's Tony Gonzalez speaking.
Border Patrol, CBP, was able to decompress, process, get over 4,000 people out. Another historic number. But yet, more people are still coming, and there's more people in the pipeline. And I suspect Christmas will be worse than today, and New Year's will be worse than today. We're going the absolute wrong direction.
And these numbers should not surprise authorities at the border or U.S. politicians. You know, CBP released numbers of border encounters at the southern border in the beginning of what is the fiscal year, which essentially begins in the month of October every year. So if you compare the month of October of this year to October of 2023, of 2022, of 2021, they had the largest number of encounters, more than 240,000 at the U.S.-Mexico border. So we see these increases there with a record number set for daily encounters, and now we have more migrants that continue to arrive, as the congressman said, something they expect to see in the coming days. Sam?
Sobering scenes there in Texas tonight. Guad Venegas, thank you so much. Well, let's get you over right now to the 5 things that our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, media giants Warner Brothers, Discovery, and Paramount Global are in early merger talks right now, according to CNBC. The 2 CEOs met yesterday to discuss the deal, but both companies right now declining to comment. Even if agreement is actually reached, it would likely face pushback from the federal government. Number 2, a Texas man who tricked a woman into giving him over $1 million in a romance scam has been sentenced to 3 years in prison. He's also been ordered to repay the money. Prosecutors say the man posed as a Belgian vet on a dating site. Number 3, Honda is recalling over 100,000 CR-V hybrid vehicles because of an electrical issue that could lead to fire. So consumers pay close attention to this. 2020 through 2022, those are the years. Honda says the dealers will fix the issue for free. Number 4, the FTC is banning Rite Aid from using facial recognition technology in its stores for 5 years. And here's the relevant part. According to the complaint, the company secretly used it for nearly a decade and wrongfully accused customers of shoplifting. Rite Aid says it was only used in a few stores and that practice ended in 2020. Number 5, NASA out today with a festive new look at our galaxy. This formation of young stars is being dubbed the Christmas Tree Cluster. I think you can probably figure out why. NASA says the cluster is about 2,500 light years from Earth. Coming up next, the blunt message that China's top leader is giving the U.S. right now on his plans to reunify with Taiwan, and we've got the exclusive. But first, how did a little-known section of the Constitution wind up at the center of Donald Trump's latest huge legal fight? We're breaking it all down for you next. The Colorado Supreme Court's ruling that former President Trump is no longer eligible to serve as president due to a little-known section of the 14th Amendment has opened up this Pandora's box of legal, political, and electoral fallout. We'll see much of that play out in the coming weeks and months. But to help you better understand the constitutional basis for this extraordinary ruling, we asked our Noah Pransky to explain just what is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Take a look.
No person shall hold any office who, having previously taken an oath to support the Constitution of the United States, engaged in insurrection or rebellion. Chances are the 14th Amendment isn't near the top of your most familiar constitutional amendment list. In fact, it's probably behind the 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th, 13th, 15th, 19th, that tax one, the drinking one, and the other drinking one too. But here's why the 14th could be one of the very most important of 2024. See, this insurrection disqualifying language was ratified following the Civil War as a way to keep Confederates and their sympathizers out of office. It does not explicitly require a criminal conviction, but it was really only used between 1868 and 1872. That was until 2022, when a court removed from office a New Mexico County commissioner, also the co-founder of Cowboys for Trump, and disqualified him from ever holding office again based on his participation in the January 6th riots. And then December 2023 happened.
A bombshell ruling from the Colorado Supreme Court.
Mr. Trump is disqualified from the primary ballot.
A majority of Colorado's Supreme Court wrote in its split decision, Trump is disqualified from holding the office of president under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Former President Trump responded on Truth Social, "What a shame for our country, a sad day for America." And his campaign spokesperson said they would appeal and promised the decision would be overturned. There's only one court that can do that.
This is surely going to the U.S. Supreme Court.
So all eyes now shift to the nation's highest court, which may have to consider whether this 155-year-old amendment, which doesn't actually mention the office of president, should prevent the Republican frontrunner for president from winning an election. Uncertainty that Coloradans are hoping is settled before they go to the polls on Super Tuesday, March 5th.
I know you mentioned the history. Let's now talk about the new precedent that could be set by both the Colorado and U.S. Supreme Courts. What happens, this is the million-dollar question, if this ruling is not overturned and Trump is not put back on the Colorado ballot? Do we know?
Well, it's speculation at this point, but the precedent could be set for other states to try the same thing, other groups to sue Donald Trump in other states to remove him from the ballot and the electoral process there. There's also the precedent that could be set politically where Republicans may start going after, say, President Joe Biden, trying to remove him from ballots. Now, we should point out, he obviously hasn't committed any acts of insurrection that we know of, but again, you set precedent, you have to live with that precedent, which is why so many people are watching this closely. Sam?
Rare times where any permutation that you just described, I think, would be believable. Noah Pransky, thank you so much for that. Well, NBC covers hundreds of international stories each day, and because it's tough to read, watch, or listen to all of them, or even a large majority of them, our international teams have done that for you. Here are some things they're keeping a close eye on in a segment that we call The Global. In India, the government is suspending 141 members of its own parliament for disrupting proceedings after they protested a security breach where a man set off a smoke canister inside of parliament. Members of the opposition party now accuse the prime minister there, their ruling party, of orchestrating a power grab. In Switzerland, the Swiss capital of Bern is considering legalizing cocaine for recreational use. That is part of a plan to fight drug crime to fight drug crime and to support addiction treatment, saying, quote, that the war on drugs has failed. And in the UK, junior doctors are launching a 3-day strike that could threaten emergency care there. The British Medical Association says that they walked out after the government offered an 8 to 10% pay increase, far less than the 35% that they were asking for. Well, turning now to some exclusive reporting from NBC News. We are learning today that Chinese President Xi Jinping warned President Biden that Beijing will reunify Taiwan with mainland China. This is according to 3 current and former U.S. officials who said the topic came up during the leaders' meeting last month at a summit in San Francisco, which was supposed to reduce tensions between the two countries. It's important because Taiwan's government favors independence, but China considers the island an integral part of its territory, and the U.S. officially opposes any changes to the status quo. It's complicated. Xi gave no concrete timing, but did say that he prefers to take Taiwan peacefully, not by force. A spokesperson for the National Security Council also declining to comment. All this coming just before a pivotal presidential election next month in Taiwan. And as our Janice Mackey-Freyer has learned, the people there are facing an increasing influence campaign from the mainland.
With a crucial election around the corner in Taiwan, candidates are at political rallies and events trying to win over voters. At the same time, there's another kind of campaign that's vying for influence here, coming in a wave of propaganda and disinformation that experts say is sweeping across the Taiwan Strait from mainland China. It has watchdog groups here on high alert, tracking coercive messaging online and finding signs of everything from Chinese musicians and influencers to AI and internet bots.
They sort of prop up these more pro-China voices in Taiwan and claims that they're the true voices of Taiwanese public opinion. Maybe it's not aimed to change your behavior instantly, but it's about making you doubt more.
Like online ads appearing to show Taiwan's president, Tsai Ing-wen, selling cryptocurrencies, or the news that Taiwan is making biological weapons for the U.S. Officials say both are false. It's what experts describe as cognitive warfare, designed to sow division and weaken trust in Taiwan's leadership, mainly because Tsai's government favors independence, while China considers Taiwan an integral part of its territory that it one day plans to retake.
Taiwan and China haven't held direct talks in nearly 8 years. At the same time, Beijing has become adamant in its intentions, even if it means war.
China has also increased shows of military force, with ships, surveillance patrols, fighter jets, even missiles becoming almost routine. Cyber attacks have soared too, according to Taiwan officials. There's now a Ministry of Digital Affairs with a well-known activist hacker, Audrey Tang, in charge.
The reason why disinformation hurts is not because it will change the presidential election result, but because it will intensify existing social conflicts.
China denies any attempts at interference, but makes no secret of its preference for a government more aligned with Beijing. Taiwan independence means war, said a spokesman in Beijing recently, adding independence is a dead end. Monitoring groups also point to what they call imelun, or U.S. skepticism, widespread messaging that questions U.S. reliability as an ally. In a speech at National Taiwan University captured by local media, the top U.S. diplomat here saying the U.S. stands with Taiwan.
We believe it is for the Taiwan voters to decide their next leader, free from outside interference.
The skepticism, though, draws attention to U.S. involvement in Ukraine, Afghanistan, the Israel-Hamas conflict, and amplifies the idea that maybe the U.S. might not be there for Taiwan.
The message is that there will be no knight in shining armor to save you when things really go down. And that's why, in order to save yourself from that scenario, maybe you should befriend China right now, so you will never get yourself into that situation in the future.
Polls show a majority of voters don't favor closer ties to China or to the U.S. Instead, they want to preserve the status quo, with Taiwan's people deciding what's best for Taiwan. Janice Mackey-Frere, NBC News.
All right, Janice, thank you so much. Still to come, why a black teen in Texas was suspended again because of his hair and probably won't make it back into the classroom anytime soon. We'll explain after the break. Now we want to bring you today's original with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been keeping a close eye on. Tonight, one black Texas teen just wants to get back to high school, but his school suspended and then resuspended him, keeping him out of his normal classes for months. And it's all because of his hairstyle. The school says it violates the district's dress code. Now the family is taking the issue to the courts. NBC's Zinkley Esimwa spoke to the teenager and has the story.
For Daryl George, just outside Houston, Texas, hair has defined his junior year of high school.
How has this all felt for you?
It's very stressful. I'm trying to maintain being a student while also having to deal with this.
The 18-year-old has now been suspended twice over his hairstyle at Barbers Hill High School, most recently in early December. The first time was back in August, when school officials said George's braided locks fell below his eyebrows and earlobes, which violated the school district's dress code for boys.
Why should I cut my hair for my education? My hair has nothing to do with my education.
George was put in a disciplinary off-campus education program, and when he returned to school with his style intact, he was suspended again. The family filing a federal civil rights lawsuit against Texas Governor Greg Abbott and the state's attorney general in September, alleging that George's suspension violates the Crown Act, a Texas state law that took effect September 1st, prohibiting race-based discrimination, banning employers and schools from penalizing people because of their hair texture or protective styles, such as afros, twists, or dreadlocks. At least 24 states have their own version of the law, according to the think tank the Economic Policy Institute. Much of that legislation following high-profile incidents of alleged hair discrimination against African Americans.
We're alleging that the grooming code of Barbers Hill ISD is unconstitutional. The law says whether or not you intend to target a specific protected class, if the end result is that only the protected class is affected, is discriminatory.
George's attorney says the district is engaging in a discriminatory pattern since back in 2020, 2 other students, both black teens, were also suspended for their hairstyles. In response, the Barbers Hill School District tells NBC News in part the claim is false, saying it has many African American students who wear dreadlocks and other similar protected hairstyles and comply with the district's length policy. We have one who does not. The superintendent adding that there are some African American students with religious exemptions for hair length, but, quote, we do not have an exception for I don't want to follow the rules. The superintendent also calling the lawsuit baseless and filing a lawsuit to clarify that the Crown Act does not address length or any other student expression, but instead protects the right to wear braids. Texas governors and attorney general's offices did not respond to our request for comment. As for Daryl George, his attorney says this legal battle has taken its toll. She requested a temporary injunction so George can return to school.
I feel like I ain't going nowhere with it. As of right now, no.
His family representative telling us many have encouraged the teenager to cut his hair and let the case go.
Daryl has hair that's woven in his head from his grandfather and from other ancestors. And this is how he is connected to his people.
What does your hair and your hairstyle mean to you?
It just means a lot to me. It made me feel more closer to my people. Being without my hair is like cutting me from my people, not letting me, express myself how I feel I should be.
All right, Zinkley joining us now. Zinkley, we hear this whole conversation around length versus braids. What exactly is the Crown Act, and where do we stand right now in any broader legislation on the federal level?
Yeah, Sam, good to see you. So the Crown Act is an acronym that stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. Of course, crown is also a term often used to refer to hair itself. And this legislation is particularly significant for the Black community, as there are a variety of natural hairstyles many African Americans use interchangeably. Even on this show, I've showed up to work with short curly hair and long braids. Now, as I mentioned, and as you asked, 24 states have their own version of the Crown Act, but there was a federal version of the act introduced in Congress in 2021 that passed in the House but was blocked by Senate Republicans. So right now there is no federal Crown Act to date. But Sam, an interesting note to end on here. Daryl George's team tells me that the teenager's initial suspension actually came just before the Crown Act passed in Texas. So this is a story we're definitely going to keep following. Sam?
Yeah, for sure. And we'll see what happens on the national level, too. Zinkley, thank you so much. And still to come, the viral way that a Florida teacher is using sports to teach important life lessons that's even getting some of the biggest names in the NFL involved. Mary Martinez is a third-grade teacher in Florida, and she absolutely loves the Miami Dolphins. So much, in fact, that she's included the team in her third-grade lesson plans. But what started as a simple math exercise tracking star wide receiver Tyreek Hill's pursuit of history in 2,000 yards has evolved into life lessons that go well beyond the classroom. And now viral lessons are touching football fans and families alike all over the country, with even the Miami Dolphins and New York Jets getting involved.
Happy Friday! Happy Friday!
If you're going to step foot onto Mary Martinez's field of play, a.k.a. her third-grade classroom.
Have the Dolphins played the Jets yet? Yes!
Students better bring an open mind and a keen sense of sportsmanship, because as the penalties posted on the door reveal, how we treat others is the name of the game.
Where did this idea come from?
I've loved sports all my life, and as I started in third grade, I noticed that there was an interest more in sports. And while I love the Dolphins and I want them to be perfect like 1972, the losses are my favorite part, because it's where the lessons come from. It's where we are able to learn and to grow, and that's such an important thing for the kids to understand.
Football for you is a metaphor for teaching them life lessons.
Yes.
Earlier this season,
How many yards did Tyreek Hill get against the Jets last time?
the Pinecrest Elementary teacher became a viral sensation by following the sensational play of Dolphins receiver Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill on kill!
Calculating his yards per game as Hill chases history in a 2,000-yard season.
Ignacio has guessed Tyreek Hill's yards exactly. He's getting a no homework pass. Say, way to go, Ignacio! Way to go, Ignacio!
But these videos, filmed by a 9-year-old photographer, Nicholas, really exploded when Miss Martinez expanded her playbook and talked about how Jets injured quarterback Aaron Rodgers reached out to Dolphins player Jalen Phillips, who suffered the same brutal Achilles tear in the same stadium.
To offer him support through his injury, to say, hey, man, I've been there too.
And she even gave her Jets towel from the game to her lone Jets student, Giovanni.
I know what you're thinking. You have a student that's a Jets fan? Yes, I have a student that's a Jets fan.
If that moment touched Giovanni.
I even showed him once on my phone where it just said New York Jets liked post, and he was about to melt.
Just imagine the emotions rushing through Miss Martinez's entire class when Dolphins players like Bradley Chubb started posting videos.
I just want to send a special shout out to you, Miss Martinez, and your class. Thank you all for the support.
Then the Dolphins inviting Mary to Monday Night Football. And perhaps the culmination, the New York Jets surprising that one stalwart supporter.
I open the box, and there's this letter. And it's like an official Jets letter. And it's for Giovanni. And it says, we're so excited for you and wanted to send you this signed football from Brees, Garrett, and Quincy. Jets. Jets. So here you go, Giovanni. This is from the Jets.
The proud Gangrene fan fighting back tears.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy would you say you are right now?
1,000.
The teams in this case, casting rivalries aside for a teacher whose voice has transcended the gridiron.
The game is so much bigger than just playing football. I mean, to some people it is just football, but to me it's everything. You can learn so much from the game.
So true. And we first found out about this piece or story when Mary's mom, who watches the Today Show every single day, found me in a department store and said, my daughter's doing amazing things. You need to report on it. And the rest is history. Mary calling her mom, Donna, her momager. That's going to do it for us. More coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.